Well, hello there, and welcome to this special bonus training that goes with episode 109 of the Bold Life podcast. I'm going to share my screen in a second and show you how I use my superpower of being really good at planning and organizing to break down a monster task into a step-by-step process that feels way more manageable and makes me way less likely to procrastinate. Like I said, I'm going to share my screen in a second, and I'm going to walk you through the processes and the steps that I use to take that task that feels like a monster, break it down step by step, and actually put it in my schedule so I make consistent progress every day. Okay, let's dive in. Okay, the first thing I do whenever I have a new task that's something that's really more than I can tackle in one day or is going to need a lot of steps to get to it is I like to have a really big picture overview of what I'm doing. I usually do this first with a paper and pencil because I'm old school and I feel more confident and my thoughts flow a little bit better when I'm writing things out. But my writing is almost illegible, pretty illegible. Sometimes I can't even read it myself. So I type this up quickly, but here is how I would start. So for this example, I am going to show you how I did the planning for a new course that I'm developing. It's a course that I mentioned in the podcast episode, if you listen to that episode 109, a course focused on strategies to help you get out of that annoying habit of procrastinating, overthinking everything, and holding yourself back from taking action. So what I do first is I start with my big goal, and then I like to have a big picture overview of exactly what's required to make that happen. So I think about all the big tasks that I need to complete. You don't want to go too detailed here yet. We're going to do that in a minute. But what you want to do first is think broad. What are some of those broad, big tasks that you must get done to make this project happen? So for me, the big tasks that I need to get done are I need to record the new course. I need to have the new course workbook that goes with it done. I have an email sequence that I send out both to potential course members and also once people start the course to help them stay on track. I need to get that all set up. And then I usually run either a free challenge or a workshop to share a little bit of information about what the course is and to get some individuals interested in joining. And I also have some ads that I run that help me sell this course. So those are kind of the big, broad overview tasks that I need to get done. And by having at least an overarching picture of what I need to get done, it helps me start to take back control of that task and it feels way less overwhelming. Then I'm going to show you how I break this down. The next step in taking a huge overwhelming task and making it feel much more manageable for your brain is setting a hard end date. A lot of the tasks that we do, whether it's at work or at home, don't necessarily have a hard and fast deadline. Maybe it's a client project you're working on, but you have a couple months to work on it, or you're trying to do some organization at home, get some of that spring cleaning done, but there's no absolute deadline, right? Which makes it really easy for our brains to procrastinate because we can keep putting these things off. So I like to set a hard deadline that I know I'm working towards. I do my overall deadline planning as a combination of 3 different, I guess you would call them resources or things that I use to help keep myself organized. So I use a paper calendar like this that I have out in front of me. And then I also use my Google Calendar because it's electronic and it syncs with my schedule. And I use a program called Asana to help me keep track of the tasks. I'll show you how I use each of those programs in a minute here, but I wanted to show you that the first thing I do is I pull out a paper calendar like this and I set my hard and fast deadline. So for me, I decided I wanted to launch this course in September. I don't want to launch it the week of the long weekend because people are away still or getting back into school. It's going to be the next week. I've circled it on my calendar here, and then I'm going to put that deadline in my Google Calendar, which I have open all the time when I'm working, and I'm going to work backwards to create deadlines for each of those tasks. Let me show you how I do this. Okay, so I have my paper calendar with my hard deadline for when I want this course to be finished. Then, like I said, I transfer that deadline into my Google Calendar because I use my Google Calendar daily. You don't have to use that step of using a paper calendar. I am just a bit old school, like I said, and I like the visual of being able to flip through a paper calendar. And I actually do keep that paper calendar with me with some of my key deadlines so that if I need to quickly pull it out to remind myself of more of that broad overview of when things need to get done, it's easier for me to pull it up. But I also like to have the daily schedule available for me. So I put all those deadlines in my paper calendar, also in my Google Calendar like this. So this is that date that I want to have my cart open, be able to offer that course to individuals. So I have it here. I mentioned that I use a program called Asana to help me organize these giant tasks and keep my brain on track so I'm not procrastinating or feeling totally overwhelmed all the time. Asana is what's called a project management software. There are lots of them out there. You don't have to use Asana, but I really like Asana, so I'd recommend it if you're looking for something new. There's a free version of Asana, which is great, so you don't need to pay anything to get started using it. And what I like about Asana is that it allows me to do a few things. One is I can create templates like this. So I have this one here called Course Creation Template. And I have all the tasks that I typically use or typically need to do when I'm creating a new course or workshop listed here. So I don't have to start from scratch every time. And so that saves me a lot of energy and a lot of focus because I'm not having to remember all the tasks that are needed. I use these templates for a number of the tasks that I do often. As you can see here, I have a podcast batch template as well. So when I'm recording new episodes of the Bold Life podcast like this, I'll create a copy of this template and then I can just put the deadlines in for the episode that I'm working on. So I'm going to start right now with this course creation template, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it and then show you how I would work backwards to make sure I have all the tasks I need to get done on my list, and I assign deadlines for every task. Okay, so I've made a duplicate of that project plan and I've retitled it Procrastination Course because I don't know what the course is going to be called yet. And then as I said, there are a number of tasks here that are already added because I use a template to do this. But if you were starting from scratch, you would just add these tasks as you go. So let's see where I could add things. So for example, if I am working on a task that has a number of modules here, I might have, actually this would be more up here. I could add a task, decide on number, I can't type today, of modules. And it's really easy just to add tasks as you go. So what I would do if I was starting this from scratch is I would go back to my initial brainstorm section here and I would add each of these sections. So the first one is new course recorded. Here this goes under course materials because that's what I've titled it before. And as you can see here, I've broken record course down into a lot more steps. So I draft a worksheet for each lesson. I finalize the worksheet for each lesson. I send it to a virtual assistant to help finalize it. I make slides as a draft. I finalize my slides. I make a script for my slides. I record those lessons. I edit the video and so on. And I break these tasks down here. I want to find a level where each task takes me about 60 minutes to do. And the reason for that is that when tasks take me an hour or an hour and a half, I am way less likely to procrastinate because it feels less overwhelming. If I just put create course, that's going to take me hours and hours. So I'm going to put it off forever, right? But instead, if I have all of these steps, it feels a lot more manageable. And what I will actually do is once I've done some of these earlier steps up here, like figuring out just how many modules I want in the course, I will expand on this even more. So instead of just a draft worksheet for each lesson, I'm going to add worksheets lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, so that each of them becomes a step and I keep breaking it down into those manageable tasks. Then what I like about this program, Asana, is that if you work with colleagues, you can assign someone else to it. I just end up assigning me to every task. And you can also put a due date in here, which will then show up in my reminders every day when I open Asana for tasks I need to get done, so I'm not forgetting anything. So that's how I would go from a really overwhelming task to breaking each of these big tasks down step by step. So I have my course materials broken down here. I have some section for images. It wasn't even something I thought of when I was going through those overall categories, which is also a benefit of doing this breakdown, is that often when I start thinking about everything that's required, I think of a lot more tasks that I forgot I actually need to do, which is good because that means I'm not going to feel overwhelmed at the end of the day when I try to squeeze everything in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep brainstorming all of these tasks until I have everything that I can think of. If you need to add more later, that's okay, like I said, but at least you have a good detailed overview now of all the steps you need to do. Next, we're going to start setting some deadlines. Let me show you how this works. Okay, I went ahead and added a section at the bottom of that project plan called Create Challenge because before I advertise this course or get people to register in it, I'm going to run a free challenge focused on reducing the overwhelm that comes with your to-do list to help folks get some initial benefit from working with me and also to share a little bit more about this course and for folks to decide if it's going to be a good fit for them or not. So I want to create this challenge. What I do is I know that I want to run the challenge the day that my course is open. I'm going to want to run it that week, so that on the final day of my challenge, they can register for the course if they want to learn more. So I know that that means I'm going to be running this that week in September here, where I have challenge in my schedule here. So then I pull out, I have this calendar open, I have Asana open, and I have my paper calendar in front of me, and I start working backwards. Okay, so if I want to have the challenge done this week, I need to have ads running the week before. So I need to have the final ads set up on the 5th. What I also do is once I've set a deadline for myself in Asana, I pull up my calendar here and make sure that I actually have time to do that in my schedule. So I'm going to book time here. Okay, actually, so I wanted to have my ads running on the 5th, but I see I'm actually still going to be at the lake for the long weekend. So that's a good reason to have all these calendars open so I know nothing is conflicting and I actually have time to get this stuff done. Okay, so I'm going to put this in here, ads set to run. They're going to actually start running this day, which also means I need some time to get the ads ready. So I'm going to have a few days before I go away for this long weekend to get the ads set up and running. I'm going to be at the lake all of this time, which probably means I need to start working on some of these tasks earlier in this week. So what I would do is set a deadline for the draft of all of this to be done a little bit earlier. Oh, this is still April. Hang on. Back into September. So maybe on the Tuesday, I will draft the ads so that I have some time to think about it and to edit them as needed before they need to go live. And then again, once I've set a deadline in Asana, I'm going to go into my schedule here and make sure I am blocking draft ads time to do this. The reason this step is so important is because if I put things on my to-do list, this is basically my to-do list, Asana, but I don't actually book time in my schedule, it's really easy to forget about those tasks or to not leave yourself enough time, right? So I like to start this planning really far out. This is several months in advance. So I make sure I have enough time to actually do all this stuff because you can see there are other tasks in my schedule already here, and there are vacations and there are things that we need to get done. I run a clinic. I do all of these things as well, just as you do too in your daily life. And so we want to make sure that we're not only making a to-do list, breaking down all the tasks that we have to get done, but we're scheduling time in our schedule to do this. What I would also do is for some of these key tasks here, I also write them on my paper calendar just so that I keep track and make sure that overall I'm going to have enough time to do things. Because sometimes when I'm just looking week by week like this, I pack way too much into a week. So again, looking at that broad overview of my monthly calendar is really helpful for me as well to make sure that I have enough time. Then I just rinse and repeat. So I take that giant to-do list, whether you use a paper and pencil to write down all the tasks you need to get done to get your project accomplished, whether you use a project organizing system like Asana, whether you use a Google Doc or an Excel document. I used Excel for years to keep track of this kind of stuff. It works great as well. You have your brainstorm of all the tasks you need to get done. You organize them by what needs to get done first and what needs to get done last. I work this backwards because I find that's easier. So I make sure I actually have enough time in my schedule if I start at the end and then work backwards. And then I'm going to set some deadlines for myself for each task, make sure I'm keeping track of those deadlines in my schedule, but also that I'm allocating time. I am making time in my schedule to do all of these tasks so that I know I'm going to have the time I need to get it done. There you have it. That's how I use my planning superpower to take a giant, overwhelming task and break it down step by step, and also how I keep track of my progress, how I keep myself organized by using a calendar and something to keep track of all of those tasks, whether it's the scheduler or to-do list, whatever it is. So I am staying on track, I am working one step at a time, and I'm not feeling so overwhelmed or getting into that bad habit of procrastinating. Okay, Hope that was helpful. If you have questions about how this works, or you want me to help you break down a task in your own life and get started, send me a message. Okay, bye for now.